Educate, inspire, change. Educate yourself, inspire others, change the world. Hello and welcome to my podcast. On tonight's show, I'm very excited. It's going to be a very deep dive into sexuality, shamanic, somatic healing, and transformational life coaching. I'm with Matthew Ayriss. Welcome to the podcast, Matthew.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I like hearing my name with your accent. It sounds so regal.
Yeah, a lot of people get surprised by seeing my face and they don't match it with my accent. It's not often that you see a Scottish Asian man on camera, you know?
Yeah, I like it. Pattern interrupt.
I will do. So, obviously we've been acquainted online for some time. Like I've been following you on Instagram and watching your videos, and I also follow your beautiful partner Andrea as well. And I think you're a fantastic couple, by the way. And you've both added a lot of value to my life in recent months. And I thought it'd be a great idea to have you on this podcast. And I think it's going to be an interesting podcast for me because generally in my podcast, I've been just chatting and interviewing people. But today, me and you are going to go a little bit deeper and maybe be a little bit more intimate and personal. So we're charting new territory, especially for me. So please go easy on me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can unravel as the conversation goes on.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited for this with many podcasts under my belt. It's nice to go into a space of inquiry, of mastery in the present moment. I feel like, ultimately that's what we're doing here on the planet right now, regardless of how much work we have been doing on ourselves in this time of quarantine, in this time of confusion, in this time of growth. It's always changing. It doesn't matter how much we know in the present moment. It's how we react to the present moment. It's how we respond to the present moment. So regardless of how much work you've been doing on sexuality, masculinity, on deprogramming, old patterns and beliefs, in this moment, where you are right now, where I am right now, we bring a very unique, special alchemy to this experience. And I believe that is the medicine that many people are being faced with right now on the planet. How do we sit in the discomfort of the unknown with our awareness of what we know to be true so that we can evaluate and make a rational decision on how to best live our lives? So it's beautiful.
Pretty profound, yeah. So before we get right into things, I would like to know a bit more about you. Your background, your history, and what life events led you into becoming the person that you are and becoming the healer that you are today.
Yeah. I'll keep this succinct because I've shared this a few times, but I was raised in Canada, in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, and growing up in what was an ideal setting on paper, I didn't really know how to operate. I didn't really know how to fit in. I was in a constant battle with myself for how do I attract women? How do I attract friends? How do I present myself as cool? How do I look as an attractive boy, man, teenager? And all through high school, I was bullied. I was teased. I was beat up. I was tormented. I would eat lunch in the opposite side of the school, and the bullies would find me and tease me and pour a can of Coke on me or push me around in the locker room. And that built this deep distrust in men and in what could be really beautiful brotherhoods, because I was in this place of not knowing who I was, and everything I tried, I was being ridiculed or kind of torn down. So I found safety in relationships. I found safety in partnerships. I started dating at about 15 years old, and every time I would date somebody new, I would be accepted into their friend group. I'd be accepted into their little community. And that would last a short while. Sometimes it's high school, sometimes a week or two, other times, a month or so. And then the relationship would run its course and it would end, or one of us would leave. And then I would be back in this position of, oh shit, I don't have people. I don't have my friends. So I would date somebody else. And then so forth and so forth. And this went on up until college, when while I was going into college, I had this beautiful friend who we had developed this this connection, this like curiosity of like a lovership. And I knew that I was at the place where I couldn't settle down into a relationship, where I wasn't in the place where I could hold it. But everything on paper, everything that I was given, everything that I was sold told me that I should be in a committed relationship, and you should focus your energy on school and then focus your energy on a career. And on my 19th birthday, she asked me, she said, are we dating, or what are we doing? And I committed to a relationship knowing that it wasn't really what my soul was asking for in that. And that then immediately started this path of school, of career, of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And 6 years later, I would become engaged, I would propose, and then get married a year after that. And in that process, I had moved down to Los Angeles. I had started a career working in Hollywood, in the commercial music video industry. But all the while, I was deeply disconnected from myself. I was deeply disconnected from my sexuality, from my desires, from how I actually wanted to be living my life. And as a result of that, I ended up having an affair. I ended up disconnecting from my relationship and just creating this split life. And that caused this inner turmoil within myself of, I don't actually want to be living either of these lives right now. And ultimately, it got to the breaking point where I left everything. I left the career, I left the marriage, I left the affair, because I was going through just states of panic in my daily life. I'd have panic attacks, or I would numb myself with anti-anxiety pills, or I would be quick to go out for drinks with friends. And I realized that I was just completely disconnecting myself. From there, I came into an incredibly powerful spiritual awakening about a month later. I went out into the desert with a woman that would become my next partner. And we went into a medicine ceremony. And in that ceremony, I just connected with this spirit, with my higher self, that unlocked all of these healing abilities that I had really been cultivating from a very young age. I learned to meditate when I was 5 years old. I learned to work with energy when I was 5 years old. I started healing myself and family members and moving energy through my body. I started practicing spell casting at nighttime at like 10, 11, 12 years old. And then when I went to find girlfriends at that 15, 16-year-old boy, I didn't know how I could connect the two. I didn't know how I could bring energy and alchemy and magic into relationship. I wasn't shown that. And in this ceremony, in this medicine space, I just unlocked all of these abilities to start to see energy channels, energy frequencies so clearly in the woman that was sitting in front of me, where we could go through and look at childhood trauma and wounding and relationships and all of this and how it was being held. And I just allowed my clairvoyance to come through. And that became this deep inquiry into, how do I unlock more of this healer? And I started traveling the world with her. Went to Southeast Asia, went to India, and then ultimately in India, we uncoupled. We ended that relationship, and I went deep into my own practice. I went deep into my own ritual of, how do I continue to step into the mastery of the alchemy of bringing the spirit into myself and allowing that to be my guidance, allowing that to be my north node that I live my life with. And I realized a lot of that stemmed around deeply understanding my desires, deeply understanding my sexuality, deeply understanding how I wanted to be in relationship, how I wanted to be met in relationship. And that just started formulating, and I allowed experiences to come into my life. Along the way, I met Andrea, and we started exploring our relationship and building. But in that process of really diving into myself, I just started sharing vulnerably. I started sharing my experience. I started sharing what works and having a feedback loop of people that were asking for support. So I facilitated men's circles and retreats and festivals around the world where I could hold space, where I could share my truth, where I could share my story and hold space for other brothers. And then doing my own work, hiring coaches and healers and diving deep into, David Deda's work and Eckhart Tolle and all of these books on personal development to really start working deeper on myself and then allowing that to integrate into the work that I do, which is now supporting men in understanding their masculinity, understanding their purpose, understanding their shadow, understanding the behavioral patterns that are deeply imprinted and enmeshed into our psyche, so that we can come into the greatest embodiment of our masculine essence, our masculine purpose on the planet for the healing that we're being asked of right now.
Beautiful. I'm curious, when you mentioned that it was a medicine that triggered the start of your healing journey, was this medicine ayahuasca by any chance?
No, this was a psilocybin journey. This was a
really?
psilocybin journey that I went deep with. I've sat with Aya a few times. Okay. In really beautiful, trusted, sacred spaces. But this catalyst for what I refer to as my awakening was through an intentional psilocybin journey.
Beautiful. I'm finding that more and more, especially with me, since I've done plant medicine for the first time in just March last year, and it's sent me on a really, really rapid journey of growth, self-discovery, and it's even led to the creation of this very podcast, because I used to suffer from a fear of public speaking, and I didn't have much confidence in that respect, so I wouldn't be in front of the camera, I wouldn't make films or videos. But since then, it showed me my purpose, it showed me why I'm here, and it really gave me the confidence and self-love that I need, So, and I'm finding this with all the people I'm speaking to, that medicine of some kind has a role to play in almost everyone's lives, especially when you're finding your purpose, finding your calling, and especially if it's to do with healing of some kind. And it's just a beautiful synergy. I find that people I'm talking to every week in this podcast, especially, they all have some background somewhere with medicine at some stage in their life, It's really like it's very synergetic.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know, medicine work and plant medicine isn't for everybody. You can receive and achieve the same states through meditation, through mindfulness, through meditative practices, through journaling, through self-realization. People can have the same profound experience in an ayahuasca journey if they get into a car accident, or if they have a traumatic experience that like triggers that in their conscious awareness. I believe that certain medicines, when done with the right intention, when in alignment, as opposed to like recreational, I'm going to go take mushrooms or drop acid and go out into the desert, I believe that they are here as profound allies on our path of awakening right now. And that doesn't mean that everybody listening has to go and sit in a medicine journey, but there's no shying away from the fact that the planet is asking for our support right now. Yeah. We are seeing raging wildfires across the globe. We're seeing earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis. We're seeing like tons upon tons of plastic being washed up on the shores. The earth, Gaia, is asking for us to support in her regenerative abilities right now. And I personally believe that if the planet is asking us for support, what better way to know how to support her than to ask her, than to commune with the plants and allies that she has and that she's given us access to, and allow that to create this alchemy within us, so that we can best support the healing of ourselves, the healing of the planet, and the healing of the collective consciousness.
Beautiful. I've been saying this for the last 12 months now. With Educate, Inspire, Change, the platform that we're speaking on, I used to often share news and content from around the globe, and I used to shine a light on what was wrong with the world, But since doing plant medicine, I discovered that I wanted to change the direction of my page to focus on healing yourself, because I realized that it's very, very difficult to fix the problems of the world. But the best way to do this is to fix yourself. So I've been using this as my mantra: heal yourself to heal the world. If each of us can just focus on that inward journey and that self-discovery, then around us the world will automatically change. So that's why I think it's so important that people like you are given a platform to shine, and people like you are, because years ago it would be very hard for healers to make a living. Let's be honest, but now there's so much space opening up for transformational coaches, yoga teachers, shamans, or all these different kind of people of different walks of life, and they're all able to make a career and a living out of this, which is a really beautiful thing. And I think it's a sign of the future and a sign of the times that we're able to, have a podcast that is fueled by this healing passion that we both have together. So it's something that I've been doing for the last 2 years is a lot of self-work. But obviously, I've been on a journey my entire life, but I've struggled with some areas quite strongly. And I think there's a reason why I was drawn to you and drawn to Andrea, because you seem to be very, very open. You're very open with your vulnerability, talking about sexuality. And this has been something that me coming from I was born in a Muslim household, where there was a lot of shame brought on around the subject of sex. It was never spoken about. And it was, everything was done in secrecy, and you had to lie a lot just to cover up your girlfriends. And it was, it wasn't the healthiest of upbringings I had. And this led into my 20s, where most of my sexual relationships were based around drugs and alcohol, were involved at some stage. It was very hard for me to have a healthy relationship, because I didn't know how, because I was never really taught. And my parents didn't have a healthy relationship either, so I didn't have much to go by. And it took me from the age of 30 to really, I feel like I was a boy until the age of 30. Like at the age of 30, I started to mature, and started to ask myself the questions that, we should be asking ourselves as men, and I'm still on that journey. I'm 37 now, and I still feel like I'm finding my feet sexually. Like I'm uncomfortable even talking to you about it right now, it makes me feel weird, but I really want to be vulnerable. I want to be in spaces where I feel comfortable to talk about my vulnerabilities and where I need help, because asking for help is a big thing that I've never done. And, in my life, I also come from Scotland. So I've got two big influences. My father's like Pakistani Muslim, and then I'm a Scotsman, so both of those cultures don't ask for help. Both of those cultures are very masculine. They look after themselves. They deal with the problems themselves, and they do it the manly way, So like I've always been battling against this in my life, and I feel like now I'm trying to get in touch with my feminine side. I'm trying to get in touch with my vulnerability. I'm trying to learn to cry. I'm trying to learn just to admit that I need help sometimes. And that's one of the reasons I'm talking to you today, is I need help in some situations, and I just want to see what your response is to that, and what you do with that.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah, I want to start actually by saying you said something really interesting. And what I like to do when I work with people is really listen to the stories that they tell themselves, listen to the stories that they tell about themselves. Mm-hmm. And you said just now that having these two timelines that exist in who you are, the like Pakistani Muslim and the Scotsman, you said they're both very masculine, and it's a very manly approach. So you want to get in touch with your feminine. I actually believe that being in touch with the sensitivity, the vulnerability, I believe that is an essence of the purest masculine. Yes, you can bring in the femininity, the artistic expression, the flow. I would actually say that you are probably more in touch with your feminine, having created these beautiful platforms and like really creating from inspired action. It's in the name of what you're creating, as opposed to the masculine. And even in that, in your awareness, in the conscious thought that you have of this is who I am and I want to cultivate more of my feminine, you're not giving your masculine the credit that it deserves, the embodiment of that. Most of us as men, whether we were raised Muslim or Scot or Canadian, were raised with this belief and with this understanding that the benchmark for your manhood was if you fought somebody or if you fucked somebody. We were shown pretty clearly through media, through society, through representations of, adult figures and mentors, that a testament of how much of a man you were was either how tough you were or how you conquered. How many women can you get, or how many men can you fight? And that created this distorted view of masculinity in our awareness. Most of us were told at some point or another to man up. Or it's like you just said, it's not the manly way. So when we're expressing our emotions, when we're feeling this innate feeling of energy moving in our body that wants to be expressed as catharsis, as sadness, as pain, as anguish, as vulnerability, and somebody says to you, man up, be a man. As a child, you now have this belief that, okay, my feelings, my energy, how I'm expressing myself right now is not manly. I'm not a man if I'm vulnerable. So I'm going to create the story that it is more manly to suppress my emotions. And how am I going to express my manliness, how much of a man I am? So we look to music videos, we look to pop culture, we look to parents, mentors, teachers, authority figures, and we see that they're displaying this manly energy through aggression, through aggravation, through abuse, through assault, through control. So we then develop in a unconscious way patterns that affirm that. In order to be successful, I need to be tough. In order to be liked, I need to conquer. In order to feel manly, I get to feel validated by the feminine. In order to feel manly, I get to prove how much of a man I am to him. And on top of that, our sexuality, our pleasure, our connection with our sexual energy is shamed and suppressed. Most boys discovered masturbation at a young age, between 7, 8, 9 years old to 13, 14, 15 years old. And they were not taught about what it meant to be in a self-pleasure practice. They were not taught about what it meant to actually work with your energy, to sublimate your energy, to pull your energy up. Most boys would masturbate at nighttime with the door locked and a box of tissues next to the bed, or in the bathroom when they're in the shower for a minute. Even now, most men in relationship will not talk with their partners about being in their self-pleasure practice, because there's a belief that there's something wrong with that it's taking away from their relationship. And we get to do the work to reprogram that. We get to do the work to reprogram this belief that vulnerability means that I'm less of a man. I actually believe that vulnerability, when you look at what it is, that I believe is one of the most quintessentially masculine things that you could do. It's essentially saying, hey, I'm taking the armor off. I'm removing the shields. I'm removing the masks. I'm removing the protection mechanisms. And I'm going to show you my weaknesses. I'm going to show you my vulnerabilities. I'm going to show you the soft spots where the armor doesn't protect. And I'm going to show you this, trusting that you can hold it and you can support me in strengthening that without needing the armor. And I believe that takes the most courage, that takes the most direction, that takes the most assertion and control in your life, which are quintessentially masculine traits. The masculine has the vision for the future. The masculine is the arrow. It's the direction. This is where I'm going with my life. This is how I'm going to penetrate the planet. This is how I'm going to be in my purpose. This is how my purpose is going to support something greater than me. That's the provider and the protector. And by allowing ourselves to be in that from our most authentic self, we're bringing forward the purest alignment of that energy, which supports our healing and the planet's. So the vulnerability is the most masculine thing that I believe, you can do right now. And from that space, from understanding that, from cultivating that, by stepping into a deeper embodiment of that, we create the structure, we create the formation, we create the plan for our feminine to come through, for our intuitive guidance, for our musings, for our music, for our photography, our poetry, our writing. We allow for that to come through our ability to hold the structure for ourselves, through our ability to hold ourselves in our process.
I'm literally hanging in with every word. Sorry.
My question for
Continue.
you is, you said you need support. You said that it's hard for you to ask for support. So inviting it in now into this space, what is it that you feel you need support with?
I'm in a relationship, for example, just now, and I find there's been a gulf. We can be very intimate together, and then we can go through stages where we're not. And for me, like I feel like all my life I've had some kind of strange. I feel like I'm on the scale. What's that scale they call? When you're a bit OCD. Like you know what I'm talking about, where everything has to be perfect. And I feel like in my relationship, this happens as well. If everything isn't perfect, then it affects me in lots of levels. And rather than being vulnerable, rather than admitting my faults, or rather than trying to talk it out, I'll just avoid the problem, and it will have an adverse effect on my relationship. There'll be a lack of intimacy, lack of affection, and this could go on for weeks and months sometimes without ever addressing the issue, and it frustrates me because I'm aware of these issues, but I maybe don't do what I need to do. Like, it comes from both sides. We're maybe not, I feel we're not mature enough as a couple, for either of us to take the lead and to say, this is what's wrong, let's fix it. It's almost like we're both being stubborn, and it's causing issues because we have 2 young children together, and it's important to me that our relationship, that we make the best of what we have, because we're both beautiful people. We have great intentions. We're great parents, but there's an issue with us as a couple. And I found this has been a pattern in my life, with all my relationships with females. It gets to a stage where there's always intimacy issues of some kind, and I can't explain why, but I'm pretty sure that I'm the source of it, and I'm guessing it stems from just a story that I'm telling myself since childhood, And also something I learned during plant medicine was, like, I realized the source of my trauma was the relationship with my mother. From the age of 0 to 3, I wasn't nurtured the way a child should be, because my mother was very young and very scared. So the minute I came out of the womb, she wanted to give me away. You know what I mean? And I experienced this during a medicine journey. I experienced her giving labor to me. It was really crazy. But it was that feeling of abandonment straight away. There was no skin to skin contact. There was no, and that continued into adulthood, where we didn't have much affection. Even now, like, I'll go to my mum for a hug, and she'll find it hard to hug me because she suffered abuse as a child, and this kind of passed on to me. So there's been a lack of affection through my entire life, and there's never been a female in my life where I've felt nurtured by or loved by. So there's this feeling maybe where there's intimacy issue with me. I find it hard to. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for that nurturing women, but I seem to attract the opposite. I seem to attract women that need nurtured by me. I seem to attract women that need a man to take the lead almost, where what I'm looking for is a strong woman who can protect me as well, because there's parts of me that are very sensitive and need a lot of love and care, but I don't think I've ever had that, if I'm being blatantly honest with you, and that's kind of where I
am. So there is a childhood kind of behavioral pattern and attachment style known as enmeshment. Enmeshment is when a child essentially becomes, on some level, a surrogate partner for their parent. This can be done through emotional support. This can be done through physical support, like physically holding your mother or your father in their pain, in their wounding, in their trauma. This can be done as an energetic where your parent is constantly reaching out to you and you have to always be energetically available to them. So often when that happens, and in like what we're talking about here with you, in the son to mother relationship, and this can go the other way from daughter to father or son to father, it's a little different, but let's talk specifically about this. In the son to mother, mother to son relationship, what ends up happening is that young boy recognizes the wounding and the trauma that his mother is in. And in recognizing that, as you even said, by your own admittance, your mother was in her own trauma, in her own pain, you become the surrogate partner, the safety, the like protector, if you will, for her emotional experience. You become the savior. That's where often this like savior complex comes from. That's why very often you will find that you will call into your experience women who are wounded or who need to be held, because for you, that is the safety that you were shown, that your formulation of love in that dynamic is to hold the feminine in their wounding. So if that's the conditioning that you had as a result of an enmeshed relationship with your mother, and then you have a partner that shows up that can actually meet you, that can actually hold you as well, that is committed to doing the work, often what that does is that triggers in our subconscious mind a fear of intimacy with that partner. Because your safety, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense logically, your safety that was shown to you, the beliefs and the conditioning that you developed at a young age around having to be there for your mother, means that if there is somebody, if there is a feminine being that can actually support you, it's not safe, because your safety mechanism came when you had to show up for her. And it sounds as though, and what you said that you've been processing, is learning to hold yourself. So you're releasing this idea that your mother is there to hold you through your process, that she's there to just nurture you, and you get to learn to hold yourself. So if a woman now shows up that says, hey, I can hold you in this, that's going to trigger your nervous system into not feeling safe, because the safety is in the wound. That's why a lot of people who are in an abusive relationship will manifest another abusive relationship after they've left, because their mechanism of safety, their subconscious mind, has developed the belief that that is their norm and that is the safe. I'm not saying that it is safe. I'm saying that that's the way that the subconscious mind is working. So when you speak of what sounds like a wavering energy in your relationship and not being able to like make decisions or like, you know, come to an agreement or committing to the work, that is your invitation to embody your masculine. That's your invitation to say, okay, I'm actually going to take control of this situation. I'm going to say, we're going to take this space. We're going to set this container. We're going to set this evening to come into physical intimacy, to come into connection, to come into union, to come into ritual, to come into ceremony. So for the next 2 hours, we're going to come together, and I'm going to guide you in breath. I'm going to guide you in eye gazing. We're going to come into connection. I'm going to like physically worship your body for a while and allow you to feel safe and allow you to feel home in your body. And then we're going to go into like sacred union. We're going to go into like physical intimacy. And then tomorrow we're going to create a container and we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to nurture me. Just you saying, this is what we're doing. I'm setting the container. We're going to breathe together. We're going to anchor into this ritual together. That's asserting your masculine. And now you can surrender into receiving from that nurturing essence. But when we're constantly wanting that nurture, when we're constantly seeking for that that energy to fulfill us, firstly, without speaking to it, without creating the opportunity for it, and with holding an expectation that your partner, your friend, your beloved, your lover, whoever it is, can meet you in that, you're going to feel and set yourself up for disappointment because you're not actually creating the circumstances for yourself to be fulfilled. And when you create the circumstances for yourself to be disappointed because you're holding the expectation, I expect you to nurture me and you didn't. You're repeating the pattern that you're feeling from your childhood of disappointment from your mother for not nurturing you. And that is your norm. That is your safety because that's what you were shown. Those are the deep-seated beliefs within that. And then as you begin to grow, as you begin to evolve and expand as a young adult, as a boy, as a man, as a conscious man, as an eternal being, as that expansion begins, anything that is standing in the way of that is going to come forward. Meaning, if you're desiring to be nurtured and you have worked on yourself to come to the place where you can receive nurturing from the feminine from an embodied place, not because you're lacking it, not because you're trying to fill the wound, but because you know it feels really fucking nice just to like lie and be soothed and held by the feminine and have her massage your shoulders and stroke your body and scratch your head and all of the beauty that the feminine brings to the masculine. You've done the work to do that, then either that will show up for you or something standing in the way of you being able to receive that will show up. The lack, the not good enough, the unworthy, the frustration, the anger, the anguish, the sadness, and then suppressing the sadness. And that's where the work on communicating in a conscious way, on creating sacred containers for you to be able to actually have these conversations with your beloved, to have these conversations with yourself, will allow you to begin to peel back the layers that are standing in the way of you actually being able to feel what is already in front of you. And that is the work. And when you say, heal yourself, heal the world, if you begin to work on this part of yourself that allows for you to come into a deeper union with yourself, a deeper union with your beloved, a deeper understanding of the love that you have for your mother without projecting the pain or the sadness or the anger or the frustration onto her, recognizing that she was doing the best that she could with the tools that she had. As you do that, you're going to come more into alignment within your purpose. You're going to come more into alignment with your mission. It's going to allow you to feel more fulfilled. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to give you more like purpose drive. It's going to literally increase your life force energy. Coming back to our sexual energy is life force energy. I believe that sexual energy is like God consciousness, creative energy, but it's so distorted. We come from the alchemy of sexual energy. We are born from nothing, essentially from a microscopic, tadpole and an egg. And then these vessels grow and emerge and develop consciousness and self-awareness and emotions and experiences. But we come from that energy. So when we learn to work with that energy, we're tapping into universal consciousness. We're tapping into creative life force energy. We're tapping into the energy that exists to create and manifest anything. But if we're going to create and manifest anything and we're doing it through our distorted lens of that energy, through our distorted beliefs of that energy, then what we create is going to carry that distortion. So as you do the work on yourself, as you come into your purpose, as you come into your self-actualization and self-realization and self-mastery, your frequency is going to shift, and that will be felt in everything that you carry out. Does that land?
So it does land very much. What I'm I mean, everything you're saying is resonating quite deeply. Like it resonates, and I want to make these changes. But what I know is this call's going to end, and I'm going to get stuck into daily life. And 3 or 4 days from now, I'll still remember what you said, but it will be that struggle overcoming that first barrier. What physical action do I need to take in that moment to implement what you're saying to make it a reality? Because all of what you're saying, I probably deep down somewhere already know, but for some reason, I'm not willing, or I haven't had the strength or the courage or the motivation, I don't know what, to take that first step. I'll always find a reason not to. So what I want to know from you is what would you advise for someone like me who's very stubborn in nature, or I've got these really strong defense mechanisms in place, and I've had them all my life, and they're there from childhood, and I'm just starting to learn about them now through doing my medicine and through this journey of self-discovery. I'm shedding them away slowly, but this one, talking about sexual energy, seems to be it's kind of very hard to move for me, so I want to know, like, physically, after this call's over tonight or tomorrow or whenever I have time, how does it look? What do I do? Should I put something down in writing? Should I just take her to the side and just speak? Or what do I do physically to get this ball rolling,
Yeah. I believe, there's a handful of things. That's the work of personal development, is how do we actually implement our ability to change something in our life. Your awareness is now aware that there is something that you want to change, which gives you the opportunity to choose it. Just being aware that you want to change doesn't mean that it will change. You get to actually choose something different. So there are many people out there who can say, this isn't working, I'm going to change it. And they do. It's easy with something like, let's say, tobacco or alcohol. They can say, smoking is no longer in service to my health. Drinking is no longer in service to my health. I'm going to change it. And they stop drinking or they stop smoking. And that's it. It's a little bit harder with belief systems, with programming, with deep conditions of what makes our body feel safe. So what do? First, invest in ourselves. That has been one of the greatest tools for my growth, is legitimately investing in a coach, investing in a therapist, investing in people who can support you through this, who are holding you accountable to make those changes happen. That is the first thing. That was one of the greatest gifts that I ever gave to myself, was actually investing in a coach and a program that was able to support my growth with this, because then I got the feedback loop. I received from the universe the feedback loop of my growth in real time. And still to this day, I have a coach, I have a therapist, and I have a group of brothers who are very, very dear friends of mine, who are my support, who I'll text them and say, hey, I'm committing to this for myself. Can you hold me accountable? These are the commitments. This is what it looks like. I'm going to text you when I've done it. If I haven't texted you, message me and let me know. Putting things into place. So the first thing I would say is you have the opportunity to invest in yourself, to invest, in a coach one-on-one, invest in a group program, invest in working through this so that you can go deeper and deeper into that. Outside of that, you get to begin to reflect and become aware of what isn't serving. So you can literally just sit, create space for yourself. Firstly, ritual is a huge thing in changing this. I have a program that's coming out within the next couple of weeks. It's a 21-day Fall in Love with Your Shadow program, and it It is based around the understanding that it takes 21 days to formulate a new habit. Behavioral psychologists believe that that is the time frame to actually change a habit or to implement something new. So coming into a daily ritual for yourself that is supporting your growth, meaning your morning meditation, morning reflection, like literally just sitting and reflecting on your emotions. I do this every morning. I sit and I say, how am I feeling? Like what does my body feel? Okay, I feel nervous. I feel anxious. I feel scared. I feel sad. I feel excited. I feel happy. I feel turned on. I feel elated. Like, what am I feeling? Not creating a story about it, but just saying, like, this is what I'm feeling right now. Affirmations. Affirmations are really big because you are then putting out into the universe what you want to see as your feedback loop. So writing out like a daily affirmation. I'm a beautiful, strong, confident man who is able to consciously communicate with his partner about the challenges and struggles that I face. I feel deeply embodied and understood in my sexuality. I no longer hold shame around my pleasure. Actually, I'm going to change that in real time. Don't write negatives. So instead of saying, I no longer am ashamed of my pleasure, or whatever I just said, I love my pleasure fully. My pleasure is integrated and embodied in everything that I do. Because the universe likes declarations and likes like affirmations. So I'm glad that I said that so I could differentiate the two. Then you get to start reflecting on what isn't working in your life, taking a look at the patterns that are showing up. You said yourself that certain experiences, certain patterns have shown up in your relationship. This relationship and past relationships, start writing them out. I understand when my partner nurtures me, I become distant. When I don't feel met sexually, I feel sad and compulsively masturbate to porn. Whatever it is, write it out, the patterns that don't serve, and then write out the patterns that do serve. When I exercise, I feel better about myself. When I meditate every day, I feel more productive. When I meet with my friends once a week, I feel excited about creating. These are feedback loops that you have that are supporting your growth. When you look at the ones that don't, when you look at the patterns that aren't supporting your growth, then you can go into each one. And this is where the work with a coach, this is literally what I do, is I work with men one-on-one to break down each one. And then we look at the pattern and we don't just say, okay, well, you have this pattern and you get to shift it. That happens. And what part of you is actually looking to be validated here? What part of you is looking to be witnessed here? What part of you is looking to feel better about yourself or less lonely? Or what part of you is desiring to really just, be seen? And then we go back into the childhood belief. Who was that person? What were they shown? And how can we love them more? So that was a very long approach, but to give you a succinct answer for like what you can do after this call, create a ritual for yourself, create a daily ritual that you can begin to implement today and hold yourself accountable to it. Every day, put it into effect. Create an affirmation for yourself that is part of that ritual. Write out the patterns in your life that are not serving and write out the patterns in your life that are serving. Under the patterns that don't serve, write out the story beneath each one. Meaning, one pattern that doesn't serve, like this is a metaphor, this isn't me. One pattern that doesn't serve is every time a woman nurtures me, I become resistant and distant to it. The story that I've created with this is that I'm not worthy of being nurtured. And then you're going to begin to see the through lines of what's supporting you, what's not supporting you. Another exercise that's really beautiful, I just actually gave this as homework for my group program. I have a group program called The Pillar. It's masculine, sexual, and emotional mastery for men. I'm in the middle of the second one. I'm going to be beginning the third one at the end of the summer. So any of the listeners who are interested in that can go to themasculinepillar.com and apply, and I'll be releasing more information about that in the coming weeks.
Whilst in Costa Rica last year, I came across a guy by the name of Anthony Walsh who handed me a bottle of hemp extract CBD oil. And after just taking a few drops, I was sold. I immediately felt more relaxed, less stressed. I found the quality of my sleep improved, and it even helped me with my meditation practices. The reason this product stands out for me was Anthony himself is passionate about healing the world one person at a time, and has personally invested thousands of hours researching CBD and cannabinoids in order to fully understand how to help guide others to receive the maximum benefits of taking hemp oil extracts. His company is called Eco Life Supplements, and I highly recommend it to anyone that wants to have a better, happier, and healthier life. It's 100% natural, organically grown, all natural and non-GMO guaranteed for your best experience. To order yours now, please visit ecolifesupplements.com and quote coupon code INSPIRECHANGE for a 10% discount, and they are currently only delivering in the US.
So one of the exercises that I love and I share often with my clients is mirror work. Set aside 1 minute to 10 minutes, maybe more a day, to stand in front of the mirror naked, look at yourself in the eyes, and tell yourself everything you love about yourself. I love my smile. I love my body. I love my chest. I love my arms. I love my cock. I love my ears. I love my hair. And then go into the emotions. Go into the personality. I love how much fun. Please.
So you're saying, like, you saying this makes me want to laugh inside, and my reaction is that of a child, like I want to giggle, and it makes me kind of shy and nervous, and I can't visualize myself doing that, so I want to know, like, what barrier do I have to overcome to actually do what you're saying, because like there's no chance in this moment that after this call I'm going to get naked and look in the mirror and do what you said, just because maybe I have to overcome a lot of belief systems or whatever insecurities or things that I have. So how do I become more vulnerable like that and be able to do that and do it with intention, Because a lot of men listening to this, I can imagine they wouldn't feel comfortable doing what you just said. Probably 95% wouldn't. So like, how do we speak to them? And like through me, like, how do we overcome this feeling of shame or nervousness? Is that too feminine or too weird? Or do you know what I mean? Like, what is it that stops me wanting to do that?
You just said that you want to change. You just said that you want to become more vulnerable. I just gave you an invitation into a practice that would support that, where nobody is judging you except for yourself. You're not on camera. Nobody else is around. The invitation is to tell your wife or your partner if you're doing this. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. You can do this. You can get out of the shower and stand in front of the mirror and do this. So you've said, hey, I'm looking for support. You've said, this is the problem that I have. So the first thing you've done is you've admitted that you would like support. Then you've presented me with a problem, with something that you said isn't working. I would like to be more vulnerable. I'd like to accept myself more. I'd like to move through the shame. I have offered you a solution for that. It might work, it might not. It's not going to actually do any harm. Like, what is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? Maybe you'll laugh at yourself. Yeah. Maybe you'll cry.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it's too much. So we get to look at why, like, there's a part of you that actually just doesn't want to do the work to support what you're asking for support with. So maybe, and we would need much more time with this, maybe there is under that this belief that you're actually not, like, you're holding the belief that you're not worthy of loving yourself. Because if you want to fully love yourself, and here's something that would work, and you're like, everything in your system's like, nope, I can't look at myself in the mirror. Weird. There's a program, there's something that is operating that is saying that's not safe. And the through line that I see is the story that I see being created is it's not safe to be vulnerable. It's not safe to love myself. And this is where, like, the work with, with a coach, the work with, like, somatic healing, the work with like, going into this supports, because then you can start to see where in childhood that belief was formulated, where you were put on a pedestal of having to be perfect. You said so yourself at the beginning of the call that you find that there's this, like, strive for perfection. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, but we went a different route, is what does perfection look like to you? If you're constantly being told as a child, or if you're striving for perfection, and I have a lot of Muslim friends. My ex-wife was Muslim. I have a lot of Muslim friends, and I understand the culture and this drive for, like, especially within like, Muslims in business, what that perfection needs to look like. And the pressure that is put on you by your parents, by society, by the belief system that you were born into of what that perfection needs to look like. So if you're told at a certain age, this is what perfect looks like, this is what you're supposed to look like, and that strive for perfection does not include being vulnerable, does not include actually crying, does not include feeling your emotions, then your desire, your strive, your energy for this perfection that is more dominant than your desire to work on yourself right now is going to operate on the default mechanism. So that's where the work of, hey, we're going to reprogram these. We're going to go into the beliefs and reprogram it. That's where actually implementing it and saying, okay, it's really uncomfortable. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself I love myself. But I'm committed to my growth enough to try it for 3 weeks. That's it. In, like, you're 37, if you only did this for 3 weeks and then you live the rest of your life having never done it again, that would be a momentary blip in your life that actually takes nothing away from you, but could potentially allow for you to deepen your love for yourself. That's where the accountability comes in. That's where working with people really supports, because you can say, okay, I'm committing to this. I'm choosing it. Don't do it because I told you to. Don't. I tell this to my clients all the time. I'm going to give you invitations for stuff. Never do it because I told you to. Do it because you're choosing it. I might encourage you. I might push you a little bit. I might tell you that, like, it would really benefit you. But at the end of the day, if you're asking for help and I'm giving you the invitation and you're not doing it, then why are we even wasting our time with the back and forth of wanting help? If I'm coaching somebody and they're not going to do the work, what's the point of me investing my energy to support them if they're not going to implement that? My energy would much rather be used and be more fulfilled with someone who actually wants to implement it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So really the invitation for you is to like, just push through the discomfort for a minute and be with it and see what arises. And then from that, you get to see what works and you get to operate. And maybe that makes you more confident. Maybe then you feel like, oh, fuck yeah, like, I like myself. I love myself. I feel good. I feel sexy. I feel like empowered. I feel desired. I feel like, great, I'm going to go and just ravish my wife. I feel so good. I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to tell the kids, like, go play outside for the next hour, like, and just like grab her and ravish her and move her body and let her surrender into your like masculine essence that's anchored into this essence, not because you feel lack, not because you're saying I'm not good enough and I want to have sex because you're going to validate me, but because I feel so fucking good, so like ugh, I just want to take you. I want to share this energy with you. That's the masculine.
Yep.
It's triggering, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. So, like, how long have you been doing this one-on-one coaching with men?
I've been doing one-on-one coaching with men for a few years now. I've been facilitating group programs for a couple years, but really, I love my group program so much, but it's interesting because we get to hold like a large container and go through this program as a container, and it's really powerful and beautiful. I feel so excited when I get to work with somebody one-on-one and really go through this deep process with them and watch in real time these shifts come into deeper alignment. I've seen people who have been, I've worked with brothers who have been in, marriages for, 2 decades, who are madly in love, but want to open their relationship up and don't know how to talk about those desires, don't know how to talk about that. Through the work together, get to the place where they're now opening their relationship up, where they're deeply in love with themselves and their desires and their authenticities. I've worked with men who have been, just asking for support and are unhappily in their job. But really, they're asking me for support with, manifesting a relationship. But once we start doing the work, we realize that there's this pressure of this job that they're having to live because they think they need to be a certain way. They end up leaving the job, and as soon as they leave the job, this partner comes in. Because it's clearing the density that's standing in the way of you being in your fullest purpose. And that, to me, is the most exciting. I created an agreement with myself last year that I would only support people that inspire me. I know that there's a lot of people that I can support. I don't say that from an egoic standpoint whatsoever. I'm just saying, like, I know my ability to support individuals on their healing journey, and the rate at which this planet is evolving, the rate at which people are stepping into their work, and on the other side of that, the rate at which they're being confronted with all of their shit is so fast right now that I want to put my energy towards men who are inspiring and are creating like beautiful change on the planet, because I recognize that it's a co-creation entirely. The more I'm able to help you, the more you're able to help the world. Whether that is just one person who is works one-on-one with people and has one client a year, and the only people that change as a result of the work is that one person may affect 10,000. So for me, it's about finding the inspired individuals who are committed to the work, who recognize that there is something that isn't in alignment, that are ready to show up in it, and are saying, okay, I know this is going to be super fucking uncomfortable, and it's no longer worth it to sit in the stagnation. For me, I ask people all the time that I get on calls with. It's like, if you want this change in your life, if not now, then when? There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees what's going to happen tomorrow. There's no guarantees what's going to happen in a week. We're seeing that in real time. The world is in a complete state of distortion, of confusion, of chaos. But there's also just as much beauty. There's just as much light. It's natural law. It's universal law. The law of polarity. All of the darkness that we're seeing, there's an equal amount of light. It's just a matter of shifting our awareness. It's like if you go scuba diving or snorkeling and you're wearing flippers and fins and you dive down to see the beauty that's on the bottom of the lake or the bottom of the river or the ocean. When you go down, those fins are going to kick up some dust. You're not going to be able to see, and it's going to be muddier than before and harder to see. But if you're patient and you don't panic, then that dust will settle and you'll be able to see all of the beauty that lies underneath, all of the treasures and the alchemical components that are so unique to that moment. And that's the process that I love so much when I work with men, when I work with individuals, because the process of like taking somebody's hand and going in and helping them kick up that dirt and then saying, okay, now don't panic. You're safe. You have your tank, you have your regulator, you have oxygen in your, like, you're good. Just let it settle for a minute and then you'll see all of the beauty that's here. And you can collect some treasures and bring them up and then bring those treasures and those experiences into everything that you do. Because if we don't do this change now, if we don't actually like begin to implement that which we wish to see in our own lives, then what are we doing with this time that we have right now? If we're creating something and we say, well, I'm too busy for it, but I know this isn't working. If I know this thing here isn't working in my life and I want to change it, but I'm still creating, then everything you create is still carrying the frequency of that thing that isn't working. So that's going to be carried in everything. That's why media is so so manipulative and so powerful, because it carries the frequency that it's being delivered with. When we talk about like fear-based media, literally, like, watch the news anchors. They are in a perpetual state of fear. They're carrying the frequency of fear. This can be measured. We can literally like track and trace frequency and understand it and see how frequency has an effect on our nervous system. We look at this through multiple scientific studies of like frequency into water or frequencies into organic organisms, or how our nervous system responds to certain energetic frequencies. It's sound healing, it's sound therapy. But it's the same with what we create. If we're creating something because we are in scarcity, if we're creating something that is carrying this lack or this unworthiness, then all that is created with that is going to have a resonance of that, whether it's incredibly prominent or not.
It's interesting. I've been speaking to different people every week on this podcast, and what I'm finding is like there's this running theme of being mindful and conscious, like being mindful of what you're consuming, whether it's through media, food, sound, music, and being conscious even of the questions you're asking, or the way you speak, or the words that you use, like self-talk, or like just being mindful and conscious of everything almost, because the more aware you can become of all these little details in your life, you really benefit on a bigger scale, and that's something I'm picking up something new from every podcast. It's really interesting, and it's very, very useful and beneficial to me, and I'm really taking a lot from this. So I want to thank you as well for everything you've said so far. It's really hit me on a deep level, and I'm really grateful for it, and I'm curious to know. So you specialize in one-on-one coaching with men. You also mentioned shamanic and somatic healing. What other healing modalities do you specialize in? Do you use to help people deal with whatever issues they're struggling with?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. My one-on-one coaching and my group programs, my main group program, my Shadow Work 21-day challenge is open to men and women. And the link, I believe, will be in this podcast. You can access it through there. My group coaching and my one-on-one work is specifically for men. But outside of that, I'm also a healer and an intuitive. I work with individuals on the energetic clearing of their nervous system, of their energy body, of looking at where there are distortions, where there is wounding, where there's stagnant energy stored in their physical body or their energetic body, and working with them to release that and come into a deeper state of alignment, of homeostasis in the body. So those I do one-on-one with people. Those are done remotely. I incorporate a few different healing frequencies and healing modalities that I have been attuned in and trained in across the world. So that, and then when the world opens up again, in-person retreats and workshops. But right now, my main focus is just like one-on-one work or my group work. So for the listeners that are listening, for the men that are interested, the pillar, I'll be taking applications again within the next couple weeks, which is my 3-month men's sacred sexuality masculinity program. I just last week opened space for 2 one-on-one clients that I am available for. So if anybody is listening who desires to go deeper into one-on-one work for 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, I'm available to that, and then also available for whomever to do healing work, to do energy healing work, and just intuitive readings and like kind of clairvoyant guidance. So, you said something interesting around the words, and I talk about this a lot, like, being conscious and mindful of the words that we speak. You're familiar with the phrase abracadabra?
Yes.
Like the phrase that magicians will use, and you heard that as a kid. It's like abracadabra, and you like pull a rabbit out of a hat. So abracadabra literally translates, it's an Aramaic phrase. It translates into, I create as I speak. I will create as I speak. And that, I believe, is one of the most powerful like affirmations of how we get to create our reality. The words that we speak are the spells that we cast into the universe. The thoughts that we have are our intentions for things that we want to call into our life. So the more we allow ourselves to do this work and become incredibly mindful of our energy, that doesn't mean that every negative thought that you have is going to, show up. But our ability to actually work with that energy and reprogram those thoughts, reprogram those beliefs, reprogram the vernacular and how we actually speak will allow for us to create a reality which is supportive to our entire ecosystem and nervous system.
Pretty profound. Yeah. And I think what you're saying there about creating your own reality hits home as well. Like in the last few months, I've made the decision to pack up and leave to a country that's more resonant with me. I want to be more deeper in nature, and I want to have my children raised somewhere where there's a nicer environment, more conscious living, more mindful living, more sustainable living, So we're moving to Costa Rica. As soon as the airport's open, literally we're going to go, And that's about me creating my own reality, And like one thing I want to say to a lot of people out there, because a lot of people are I think in a similar position or mindset where they want to change their life, they want to maybe leave the city or leave the job or whatever. And I think it's important to remind people that they do create their own reality. Like a lot of people seem to tell themselves a story and then they get stuck in this trap, and it's just all in their mind. You can make the changes that you want to make in life, and it's just a case of telling yourself that's still changing the story that you're telling yourself, and then having the conviction to make those changes. And you talking to me today's highlighted some of those areas. Like I'm quite good in some aspects of my life, but there are areas where I need help, But it's the same rules that apply to them all, So it's just a case of having that self-belief and realizing that I am enough, Because when I was doing ayahuasca, for example, I was realizing that ultimately it's up to us to make the changes. The medicine just helps you, it shows you who you are, The rest of the work is up to you. It's how you implement those daily changes, So what you're telling me today is you're putting medicine in me through your words, And it's then up to me what I do with that, It's entirely up to me. Like, it's about me overcoming those obstacles and fears and anxieties and standing naked in front of the mirror and doing what you're telling me to do and not making an excuse not to, So it's there's so many like synchronicities that I'm seeing during an ayahuasca ceremony and even on this call with you, just being reminded of these messages that you are the medicine, that you are enough, that you can do everything. So it's really also gives me the inspiration to keep doing this podcast, because I'm hoping that people who listen to this conversation, they can almost see the transformation in me from when I'm speaking to you, in the beginning towards the end. It's kind of it's been a journey almost, and I'm sure it's not just me that will feel this. I'm sure some of the listeners will have learned a lot from this conversation and been on their own journey. So thank you very much again for all you have to offer and your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it. And I would love to hear how that exercise goes for you. If you choose it and commit to it, I would love to hear how it goes. And just implementing small change on the day to day. But yeah, this has been really beautiful, and I appreciate it. For anyone listening, my website is matthewayriss.com. You can reach me there under contact me, or if you're interested in working one-on-one, I have a survey to fill out. But if you have any questions, you can reach me there. I'm at The Healing Mat on Instagram, or Matthew Ayriss on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing your Facebook Live on the page as well. So I'm sure most of my audience will get to know you there. That'll be awesome. So Matthew, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I think we should maybe do another one of these, maybe in 2 or 3 months' time, and you can have like a follow-up one, Good idea?
I would love to. Yeah, I would love that.
Beautiful.
See what the change is that's been implemented.
Yeah. That'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, brother. Take care of yourself. Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Educate, inspire, change. Educate yourself, inspire others, change the world. I'm proud to say that one of the first sponsors I have for this podcast is Rhythmia Life Advancement Centre. Rhythmia is a unique and special place to me. It's a healing resort fused with ayahuasca, meditation, breathwork, yoga, and lots of other metaphysical teachings. And they really sent me on a journey of healing and self-discovery that ultimately led to the creation of this podcast. So I really do owe Rhythmia a lot. And if you would like to go there and have a healing journey of your own, please visit them on their website at rhythmia.link/can, spelled Khan, or give them a call on 877-835-1806 and receive a free shuttle worth $300 off your trip. For the last year and a half, I've been working on a documentary called Pantera. It's a documentary series, and each series will follow me around a different plant medicine retreat. The first episode, Pantera, Our Plant Medicine Journey Begins, is due to be released in the coming weeks. If you would like to keep up to date with what we're doing and receive the latest updates and releases, sign your name at pantera.film.